Hello, well done, and welcome to NME Albums Club with me, Jordan Bassett.
And me, Leonie Cooper.
You know the score by now. As ever, we'll be discussing 3 albums, 2 newbies, and 1 golden oldie.
Stone cold classic.
Yeah.
One of my favourite albums, maybe of all time. It's it's quite a recent one in terms of the classic albums that we've been talking about of late. It's only 10 years old, as opposed to 40 or 50. Last time we did The Doors, and that was 50 years old. It's very old. This is a slip of a thing.
A relative newcomer.
At 10 years old. But firstly, before we talk about that classic album, which we're going to let you mull and think about, what came out in 2007, I can see you thinking. Well, we'll tell you in a minute. But first, we have 2 albums, Loyle Carner and Kehlani, and we will start with Loyle Carner.
But know that I've been breathing, know that I've been holding out, hoping to receive him. I've been holding out for G, but he was nowhere to be seen when I was bleeding. Cousin with the choking in the...
Here it is. Yesterday's Gone, the debut album by 22-year-old South London MC Ben Kehlani. However, he releases music under the name Kehlani because he is dyslexic, and apparently at school he used to like get his name wrong and say his name was Loyle Carner instead of Kehlani. And then he was just like, you know what? I'm just going to own this, and I will become Loyle Carner. So we shall refer to him as Loyle Carner throughout. I'd call him Loyle rather than Ben. And there he is. There on this. Firstly, I'd just like to point out this excellent artwork. So the idea behind this was to do a family portrait, but he's got quite a small kind of family. It's just him and his mum and his brother. So he decided to invite, there's people from his record label here, there's kind of his mum's mates here, and apparently this was all done in his back garden in Croydon, and he invited everyone around, and he is also a chef as well as a brilliant MC, and so he cooked for everyone, and they had a lovely day in the garden.
You know, I heard that he last year he did cookery classes for teenagers with ADHD because he suffers from it himself.
Yeah,
he called it chili con carne.
It's good, isn't it?
It's genius.
It is good.
What a cool guy.
And he's going to be doing more of that this year as well, the cookery stuff, which is just one of the fascinating facets of this man. But let's talk about Yesterday's Gone, his debut album, which is brilliant. Would you agree? Really good. Because the thing about British hip hop is it often gets a bad rap, excuse the pun. But this is just kind of says, no, actually, British hip hop can be amazing. And what he doesn't try to do, he doesn't try and be American. No. He's rapping in a thick kind of South London accent about the things that matter to him, which are family and friends and kind of close personal subjects. It's quite an emotional album.
Yeah, it very much wears its heart on its sleeve.
It does.
This album,
indeed.
Lyrically. But I mean, there are American influences there. There's a lot of like, kind of like in terms of the beats and stuff, it's very kind of 90s hip hop, so like boom bap. There's the jazziness of Kendrick Lamar.
There's kind of Dilla stuff going on as well, which is Rebel Clef is the guy who makes some of his beats. He is on here somewhere. This guy here.
Crowded.
Yeah. And it's very kind of Dilla influence. Also Tribe Called Quest as well. It's that kind of golden age of hip hop stuff. Yeah,
there's some Kanye style, like gospel-y elements to it as well.
The Isle of Aaron, the song that opens it, opens with this amazing gospel sample. And it's very kind of early to mid-period Kanye. But then he comes in with just like, all right, I'm from Croydon. Rather than, I am a god. It's more casual. Yeah, it's more laid back.
Relatable, isn't it? Yeah.
He's not saying he's God. He's just saying, hi, I'm Ben from South London, and I've got some stories to tell. It's very storytelling as well.
And it's that thing of like, it's all such personal stories. It's about his stepfather who died, and it's about how he dealt with that. But it's one of those things where like, it's so personal that even if you don't relate to it on a personal level, you can kind of recognise the raw humanity in it. You know what I mean? So it's like, it gets you right there.
Jordan, I cried the first time I heard this album.
I got a bit weepy.
And I know you're a fan of crying, aren't you?
Yeah, it doesn't take much to set me off.
Big crier, Jordan.
Big into a cry.
The last song on the record is called Son of Jean.
Yeah, that's the one that set me off.
And his mum reads out this poem about him. And it's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. It's so lovely. It's just this wonderful expression of a mother's love for her son. And it shows how close their relationship is. And I'm going to go again, Jordan. It's just so nice.
I thought you had a heart of stone, Leonie.
sometimes some things get me. And when they get me, Jordan, they get me hard.
It's very off-brand, this,
Yeah.
Leonie.
But it's just so nice. And there's not much music out there that makes you think, isn't that nice? That's not really a reaction I often have to music. Gosh, isn't that
Is that the
charming?
one that's got a bit of piano in it that he discovered that his stepfather had recorded an album, so he used snippets of piano in that?
Yeah, so that's what's interesting. So his stepfather passed away a few years ago, and after he died, they found a record that his dad had just recorded. He'd done an album. So a lot of that is sampled throughout the record as well. And finally, after the last song, there's sort of a hidden track, which is one of the songs from his album, from his dad's album. But he's taken his mum's vocal. He's got his mum to sing along with it. And it's his way of reuniting his mum and dad forever in record form, which is just lovely.
Loyle Carner, what a guy.
What a guy. Also, though, it's got some bangers on it.
Yeah, that's true.
No CD.
Oh my God.
How good is no
I
CD?
spent all my money on some old CDs.
It's very good.
It's about spending all your money on some old CDs.
It's about the importance of tangible music like this, music you can hold rather than downloads and all that lovely stuff that we also enjoy, but also about just having something. And then, it's just reading Me in the Morning. That's nice as well. There's Jest is actually on here. Talking of like English hip hop, like the guy who everyone relates to English hip hop, Jest, who's like an MC who's been around for 20 odd years, is on here too. So it sort of brings together the old and the new, and I love this album.
Me too. Leonie was saying earlier it's one of your highlights of 2017 already.
2017 has been pretty good musically so far.
You were already lining it up for your end of year list. It's not even the end of January yet.
Don't give it away. Things might change. But I don't think they will, because I've been listening to this for I got it at the end of last year, and I've been pretty much listening to it.
It's not been off the turntable.
Days. It is I was about to say it's a modern classic. That's a bit harsh. Not harsh, sorry, that's a bit extreme.
Go for it.
It's a modern
classic.
A modern classic. Look how happy these people are. If you get this album, you could be as happy as part of the Loyle Carner family.
Yeah. So yeah, all in all, a top one. Next up, it's Sweet Sexy Savage by Kehlani.
Do me a favor, pick me up, take me out later.
So yes, Sweet Sexy Savage, Kehlani's first album. Was her first major label album. She's had 2 mixtapes before, and one of them was nominated for a Grammy for like Best Urban Album. So let's just discuss the difference between a mixtape and an album. There's literally no difference.
Isn't a mixtape just an album that you can't get clearances for the samples?
Okay, well that's a better reasoning. Yeah. So this is essentially her 3rd album then. But first, a major label thing. Here she is in this week's NME. We have interviewed Ms. Kehlani herself. Also, get today's NME, because look how good the cover is.
So cool. So cool.
It's a Trainspotting reference, if you didn't get it.
Trainspotting 2. Out today.
Out today.
Really good.
Is it good? You've seen it already. I haven't. I'm going to see it this weekend.
Really good.
There we go. Jordan's review. Really good. But anyway, Kehlani. So a 21-year-old Oakland R&B singer. She now lives in New York. She became famous, or came to prominence. She was in America's Got Talent.
In a band, Pop Life.
Yes, this was about 6 years ago, which means she must have been about 15, 16.
Yeah.
And then, so that didn't work out, evidently.
No, she came like 4th or something like that.
That's, not
pretty
bad.
good, but didn't get the prize money. What's the point?
So what to do then? You kind of break out on your own.
Yeah, they're calling her a Mindy star, which is a terrible phrase to mean a major label artist with indie cred.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Mindy, here she is. So this album, her major label debut, is 19 tracks long. 19 tracks. That's a bit of an ask of your audience, isn't it? To put that many songs out there.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of albums like that. Like last year was packed with incredibly long albums, like the Zayn Malik album, the Drake album.
Mentioned Zayn Malik. Interesting, because there was one guest on Zayn's album last year. Kehlani. So, what do we think about her debut? What do we think, Jordan?
I didn't like it as much as I wanted to.
Well, my problem with it is that there's like 3 or 4 proper bangers on there.
Right, yeah.
But then there's 19, they sort of get lost in the wash of there's too much happening.
Yeah. It's like radio. It's like accessible, fun, radio friendly, poppy R&B.
Yeah.
Which is great. You heard one, you heard them all.
Yeah, Undercover is a really good tune. It's sort of like Rihanna-esque, and I like the references to, obviously the name of the album is Sweet Sexy Savage, is harking back to Crazy Sexy Cool. TLC, and there's quite a lot of TLC, like 90s TLC. It's my jam.
Yeah.
That's my stuff. And there's a lot of moments here that sound like that, but there's just not enough going on. I read quite a damning review of it earlier, not ours, a different publication, who called it music to do your tax return to.
That's not fair, is it?
Which I don't think, maybe they're just suggesting the length of it.
Right, yeah, it's quite long.
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, there are some good songs on there. Crazy, which has got the excellent line at everything I do with passion. If I gotta be a bitch, I'm gonna be a bad one.
Oh, that's quite good, isn't it?
She's well sassy. This is what I like about
very
Kehlani.
sassy.
She's well sassy. She's got like loads of attitude.
She will not take your shit.
Yeah, and she's like struggled with mental health issues, and she's been very open about that and talked a lot about that, and I think that's very cool, you know. But just musically, it's like one level, isn't it?
I found I was reading an interview with her about her references, like who she takes inspiration from, and she said Nelly Furtado, interesting.
Yeah.
Gwen Stefani, fair enough.
Yeah.
Pink, also fair enough. But then she said Natasha Bedingfield,
No way.
which I think is the first time in literally the history of music that anyone has said, yeah, I really want my stuff to sound like Natasha Bedingfield.
Well, good for her, you know, good for her, good for Natasha Bedingfield.
Natasha Bedingfield's probably like, what? Somebody say my name. In wherever she lives, Kent, home counties. I'm guessing she's somewhere in the home counties.
Yeah, her name carried along the wind on the Kentish coast.
Hark. So overall, I like her. I like what she stands for. I like the bangers.
Yeah.
Maybe next time lucky.
Yeah,
in terms of album.
Fourth time lucky.
But she got that Grammy nomination for the mixtape, which Chance the Rapper was on. Like she's only 21. Kehlani, come back. Don't go. Come back. But like 19 songs.
Yeah, mate. Just like maybe like 12 bangers or something.
Yeah.
But I tell you what doesn't need cutting down in any way, shape or form whatsoever. It's this week's classic album. Leonie, take it away.
Oh, I'm so excited! It's Panic Prevention by Jamie T.
It's heavy, it's on my mind.
Jamie T, Panic Prevention.
Oh my gosh.
An absolute stone cold banger.
Greatest album of this century, possibly. So 10 years ago, this week, it was released. Jamie T had just turned 21 years old.
Man. Everyone's 21.
He was just a man from Wimbledon with a crazy dream. And look what happened. This album is, like I just said, maybe the greatest British debut of this century, alongside original Pirate Material by The Streets, which is coming up to its 15th anniversary, actually.
Right, yeah.
And both of those albums are they share a lot. They share influences and they share stories as well.
Yeah.
There's that kind of like, there's jungle and drum and bass on both of them, and that kind of two-step garage sort of vibe happening as well. And they talk about being young and going out and having fun and partying, and then the shit that happens after you have all that fun. And then there's quite a lot of chasing girls on both these albums as well.
That's true,
quite a lot of the songs on the Jamie T album are about chatting up women.
Yeah.
And maybe failing, but at least giving it a bloody good shot.
I feel like, I mean, Jamie T released his fourth album, Trick, last year, which was absolutely brilliant. But I feel like I grew up with Jamie T. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I'll never not be into what he did. Like his third album from a few years ago, Carry On the Grudge, I wasn't that into, but like, I'm just glad it happened. I'm glad he exists. I'm glad he's a thing. I'm glad he's still making music.
Yes, because there was a worry that he'd stopped as well after he released this, and then he released Kings and Queens, and then he just disappeared for 5 years.
Yeah.
But he is back now, but let's just talk about his debut album. So on this record, he sort of made his own genre. It was a total like hodgepodge of loads of different things. It's punk, hardcore, indie, rap,
hip-hop,
breakbeat,
skiffle. He got some skiffle on it.
Skiffle, and John Betjeman as well. He's sampling the poet laureate from the 1970s. Let's get him on there as well.
It's like, it's a bit The Clash, it's a bit Billy Bragg, it's a bit Beastie Boys,
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
a bit Desmond Dekker. it's
there's reggae on there as well. It's scrappy though. It's messy, which is sort of the beauty of it, because it was all just done by him. Just like he must have been in his late teens, early 20s. The original review that we ran, which obviously gave it flying colours, passed with flying colours, said it's the sound of a pirate radio station you wish existed, which is like pretty spot on. It sounds like a mixtape. And like a mixtape in the truest sense, a mixtape like something you would make to impress a boy at school and be like, hi, and put it on a C90. Obviously that doesn't exist anymore, which sort of makes me a bit sad. Like, what happens if you try to flirt with someone at school now? Do you just...
Give them a stream of Panic Prevention.
Yeah,
probably.
Ooh, romantic.
Yeah.
Check out my stream.
What's your favourite song on this album? We got Sheila. They were like sort of the biggest single off of it. There was like the tale of ne'er-do-wells and urchins in
London. With the Bob Hoskins video as well.
Yeah.
That was sort of a tale of like doomed alcoholics. It was almost a kind of like 1920s music hall sort of thing.
Right,
you can see it fitting into that vaudevillian tradition as well as...
Yeah, and it's got that shout of screams calling London.
Which is very fun when you see Jamie T play in London. Everyone shouts that very loudly.
We went to see him last year, didn't we?
Oh, it was rowdy.
Brixton. It was so rowdy. It was like the rowdiest gig I've ever been to.
So it's something I want to know. Like, I grew up in London, and so obviously Jamie T, he speaks about a lot of things that I know. You did not grow up in London.
In the rural, harsh north.
But did Jamie T did it still work as a thing?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it kind of felt like the party was happening down in London.
Right.
But like you felt like you got a piece of it. But then a lot of it is like very suburban as well. There's a bit where he talks about, I can't remember which song it is, but he says, I drink to the floor in my mum's Ray-Bans.
Is that I Cantina?
Yeah. And so it is that kind of suburban teenage kind of making your own party, making your own fun kind of atmosphere to it. So I think that is probably like very translatable. That's probably why it still sounds absolutely amazing 10 years on.
In answer to your question about 10 minutes ago, favourite song? Salvador.
Yeah? Go on.
So good. It's just so danceable. Maybe we shouldn't sing them all, but it's just a real like get on the floor, lose your mind kind of a song, and the way that kind of contrasts with there's acoustic songs on there as well, because he wrote this album on an acoustic bass guitar, a crapped out piece of shit called a bass guitar, as he says on Brand New Bass Guitar.
He also says on Brand New Bass Guitar, fucking croissant.
Is that how the album opens?
Yeah.
What a good way to...
Brilliant way to start your debut album.
So who else it's just him and Kanye West who reference croissants in pop?
Yeah.
Hurry up with Madame Croissant, fucking croissant.
Yeah. If you can think of any more songs that say the word croissant for no reason whatsoever.
Please type it now.
Let us know.
Croissant songs. Or any kind of pastry. Any kind of French pastry.
Maybe next week we should just do pastry songs.
That'd be great. Yeah, I'm up for that.
I'm hungry.
Pastries Club.
Yeah, okay.
Let's do it.
My favourite song on this album is probably So Lonely Was the Ballad. I think it's like so perfectly formed. It's really compact. It's got those like jittery keys in it. It uses a sample from a self-help CD that Jamie T had to deal with his panic attacks, his panic disorder, and it all comes together so perfectly because it tells the whole story of Jamie T, and it's really fun, it's really dancey, and then there's like a little bit of darkness and a little bit of reality in there as well.
So you mentioning, the panic prevention is named because of he was suffering from panic attacks. And I remember before this album came out, at gigs he would give out his panic prevention mixtapes.
No way.
Like Panic Prevention Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, Volume 4. I think it only went up to 4.
Right.
And they would be on tape cassette. And I think even then, like in 2005, I struggled to find a tape player to play it on.
Yeah.
But I persevered and got one. And they were brilliant. It was just basically a summing up of everything that fed into this album and into his kind of consciousness. So it was just like a summing up of James T. There was like John Martin on there, an amazing kind of 70s folk guy. Bruce Springsteen, obviously. Billy Bragg, Patti Smith, Rancid, which is just like the band that Jamie T loves. Billy Idol, The Clash, Prince. And I've still got those tape cassettes, and
really?
I value them. Not as in I value them like they're 50 quid and you can buy them off me. I treasure them.
Yeah,
and I remember the first time I saw Jamie T, I'm going to start going on. Tell me if I'm waffling.
Right, I'm going to settle in now.
It was 2005. It was at a mini festival called Whorefest, which was White Heat, the indie disco, put on their own festival at the University of London Union, which is where this other indie disco called After School Club was held.
Right.
And who played, like, Les Incompetents played.
Remember them?
Long Blondes played. Blood Red Shoes. Vincent and the Villains.
Remember
and
them?
a young man called Jamie T.
Young whippersnapper.
I remember he was wearing this like 1940s flight jacket. Something, the kind of thing that you get from like 1940s Powell and Pressburger film, sort of with a guy with a twiddly moustache.
Yeah.
And he just sat there with his acoustic bass guitar, and he played in the bar area as well, so it wasn't even like on a main stage. And he did a cover of New England, which he stopped doing that years ago, the
Yeah.
Billy Bragg song, just because people were like, oh, he's like Billy Bragg, but young. But it was so good. And they played other songs that were later to be on this album, and I just remember, like, he silenced the whole room, which is something very impressive. When you're in a room full of drunk students and you have
Yeah.
an acoustic bass guitar, and you're just like, who's quite shy then as well, but everyone was like, he's all right, he'll go far.
I mean, I could honestly talk about this all day. We should probably wrap this up. I could just talk about this album all day. Very exciting for me to be like doing an NME thing, talking about Jamie T. Because I remember when Kings and Queens came out, I tried to convince a friend of mine that Jamie T was now a national treasure. He was having none of it. And then the following week, the NME published an article where they said Jamie T is a national treasure.
And you were
and I
like,
was like, there it is, in black and white.
Told you.
And 10 years later, it's still true.
And this album as well, don't forget, it was nominated for the Mercury Music Prize as well, so it wasn't just the kind of indie scene thing. Obviously, it lost to Klaxons, but also, like, Amy Winehouse was up that year as well for Back to Black. It was a solid year for albums.
Crazy times.
And Jamie T, also, he'd only just released this album, but won Best Solo Artist at the NME Awards like a month after releasing this,
That's
which is
good.
pretty good going.
That's pretty
An
good.
award he has since won 2 more times.
Good on you, Jamie. We should probably stop talking about Jamie T now.
I don't want to.
We could just turn the camera off and we'll keep talking about Jamie T.
Let's
Is that a
chat.
deal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go to
Sick.
the pub for lunch and
Chat about Jamie T. Yeah, 10 years since Panic Prevention. It changed everything. And I'm glad that we're going to go to the pub and talk about it. And please leave us your memories of Panic Prevention 10 years on. And do join us next week for more chat, more nostalgia, and some banging new tunes.
see ya.